All right, we're back. So today's video is going to be as quick as I can, recapping the week 3 games. How my predictions do as far as bets, and then kind of what we learned is going to be the main focus of the video. Just going through each game as fast as I can, just with quick takeaways, kind of my thoughts on each of the game and what we learned and how we can use that going forward. Yeah, let's get to it. The Titans. So first game, I'm going to cover the Titans at Vikings. So as I've said, if you've seen any of my other videos, I'm a Vikings fan, and that mostly sucks. So the Vikings continue to not get anything right. So really, the worst case scenario happened. They end up covering. So the Titans won 31-30 in not all that impressive fashion. The Vikings showed signs of life on offense, which gives you some hope that they'll be able to move the ball in games down the stretch here. Justin Jefferson, 175 yards and a touchdown, really impressive in his kind of breakout role in that number 2 wide receiver spot. I mean, almost number 1 wide receiver spot. Dalvin Cook, 181 yards on the ground to score, 18 yards to the air. Nice to see him get some use, especially for any fantasy owners out there. But worst case scenario, they lost the game, covered the points, so I lost a bunch of bets on that. So what are you gonna do? That's kind of what it is to be a Vikings fan, is to be disappointed. But Titans, I think, is kind of the more interesting case here. So the Titans, what do you do with them now? So through 3 games, they beat the Broncos by 2 points, they beat the Jaguars by 3 points, and the Vikings by 1 point. So they can barely beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. But what are they going to do against, playoff teams, teams that you're maybe not supposed to beat? What are they going to look like in, tougher division or conference games? So probably going to be, next week I was looking ahead, they play the Steelers. We'll have to see they play the Steelers. We'll have to see what that line looks like. But yeah, the Titans are 3-0, but beware. It's a pretty shaky 3-0. I think Mike Vrabel is a good coach, and maybe that has something to do with them squeaking away these wins. But I tend to think those one-score victories against teams. It's hard to have a lot of faith in that. So I'm going to be wary of the Titans going forward. Similarly, now that we have 3 games, we have more data. We can kind of look back. Okay, we're kind of transitioning, right? Going into weeks 1 and 2, heavily based on kind of what we thought going into the season, what happened with these teams last year. So now that we have some more data on what these teams look like this year and how things are shaping up, we can start to kind of piece things together. Obviously, predicting the future is tough stuff. But, we do our best. It's the fun part of sports betting. And I think the Titans are a good example of that. They're 3-0, but the quality of those victories matter. And they aren't the best quality. So, looking forward, you got to take that into account. And I think a good example of that and how it can kind of get you is the Dolphins-Jags game. So, going into that game, the Jags had impressed based on what we had expected. We were expecting a kind of a rough situation there, tanking for Trevor Lawrence. Traded away all their stars, but then they kind of bounce out and they beat a Colts team that it was maybe shaking some rust off, and then they barely lose to a Titans team who, playoff run last year, I thought anyway, were a pretty good team at the time. But meanwhile, you can look at the Dolphins, and yeah, they went in, they lost their first 2 games, but they were way tougher opponents. They lost to the Patriots in week 1, and they lost to the Bills in week 2, and they kept it close in that Bills game. So as far as the quality going into this, in hindsight, going into this game, the Dolphins had played way tougher opponents, had a tougher schedule to get there, and the Jags kind of hadn't really done, their feats were not as impressive as once thought. So the Jags are starting to look a lot more like the team, especially on defense, a lot more like the team we expected them to be. And meanwhile, the Dolphins kind of might be a little bit better than thought. Still kind of like an 8-8 team, still kind of an up-and-coming team, but not someone to sleep on like I did this past week. All right, next game, Texans and Steelers. So Texans at Steelers. Steelers ended up winning this one 28-21. But early on, it was a little scary. I mean, Deshaun Watson's a quarterback that when you're betting against him, he's one of those quarterbacks that can be tough to bet against. Like Russell Wilson or any of those kind of studs. Uh, he's good enough to keep them in any kind of game, especially against the spread. So luckily, there weren't a ton of points afforded to the Steelers. They were, I think, minus 4.5 point favorites, which I was very comfortable with. And after jumping out to a 14-3 lead, the Texans did. The Steelers were able to, over the course of the game, show up as that better team, and ended up holding them. The defense got 5 sacks throughout the game, held them to only 7 more points throughout the rest of the game. Won it 28-21. Kind of a confirmation, I guess, of what I thought of the Texans and the Steelers. Steelers, I'm excited to see what they do going forward. I think they're a good team. Their defense, they've allowed some points, but I still think they've been very impressive. And yeah, Deshaun Watson, he's kind of the thing about the Texans that make them kind of, you can never quite count them out. But all in all, not that impressive of a roster this year. Bengals at Eagles. So this is one I was really excited for. Ended up putting kind of more money on it throughout the week. And so did everyone else. So this could have been a dangerous game. I think it started at Bengals plus 6.5, and by Sunday it was plus 4. So a lot of money had come in on the Bengals and Joe Burrow. But I guess for good reason. They finished 23-23 in a kind of a disappointing tie. I do agree, kind of questionable Doug Peterson's decision to punt instead of at least take a shot or two at the end zone. Kind of weird how they kind of gave up and settled for the tie. Whereas I don't think the risk was that great. Like, even if Wentz would turn the ball over or something weird happened, I mean, the Bengals still would have had no time to drive down the field to score. So it seemed like kind of a consequence-free couple opportunities to either take a giant field goal and see what happens, or at least take a shot deep. Questionable anyway. Not really what I was trying to cover, but yeah, Joe Burrow, he's still looking for his first NFL win. Got his first tie, but undefeated against the spread. So you gotta love that. And if you're a Bengals fan, I mean, I think as a Bengals fan, you realize expectations weren't high going into this season. Not a ton to look forward to, but at least you get to watch Joe Burrow and watch his NFL kind of the start to his career here. And so far, he's as advertised. He's been very good. So at least you have something to look forward to on Sunday, even if playoff hopes and Super Bowl hopes aren't quite in the cards this year. Unlike Eagles fans. Eagles, I think Eagles fans, you're kind of with me with the Vikings here. I mean, the Eagles continue to be injury riddled, continue to be just kind of disappointing and not very good. I would say their pass rush has been good, but other than that, Miles Sanders has been good, but yeah, the Eagles are not a special team. Hopefully Vegas keeps kind of putting spreads on them that don't make sense, but feeling like they're going to start adjusting. I guess we'll see what happens. Cowboys at Hawks. So this was an exciting game, and we got the shootout we wanted, right? So the Hawks and Russell Wilson continue to be on fire. Their defense, not so much. They've been allowing, I think, back-to-back 30 points allowed. So, with an offensive team like Dallas, they're going to be able to score some points and make it interesting. So ultimately, though, Hawks were able to cover the spread. And that was actually a really exciting sequence of events. And we'll see how well I can break this down. I typically only do one take. We'll see how it goes. So Dallas scores a field goal to go up 31-30. And in my head, this is terrible. So there's a 1-point lead. The spread is minus 4.5. So if the Seahawks kind of struggle down the field or drive down the field and score the field goal to go up 33-31, they win by 2. Cowboys cover. Terrible outcome, for the side I'm on. And I'm watching this drive, and they keep showing Myers on the sideline practicing his kicks into the net, and they're talking about scoring the field goal, what's his range, these announcers, and I just feel this in the pit of my stomach, just this dread, waiting for that inevitable field goal, waiting for the Cowboys to cover and the Seahawks to squeak out a victory. And then Russell Wilson, the Seahawks, decide to put the boot on the throat and take that deep shot to DK Metcalf for the touchdown. And immediately I go from the sense of dread to pure jubilation and excitement. And it's just a feeling, I mean, in sports betting, the lows are low and the highs are high. And I just can't really explain that feeling if you didn't have, you won't be able to understand that feeling unless you had money on that game and watched that drive. Really exciting stuff, and funny how, I mean, victory can be snatched out of your grasp with some garbage time touchdown in the same way, but when it happens in your favor, oh, that's the best feeling there is. So that was really exciting. Quick rundown of some other games. We'll see how fast I can go. Hopefully this video is not too long. Rams at Buffalo, 32-35. I mean, I'm glad I avoided this game. It kind of, I don't remember what the spread was. I think it was only 2 points. So, Vegas was right on. Sometimes I feel like they know the future. But, man, I didn't think the pass interference, there was a pass interference call towards the end of the game on the Rams, which kind of gave Buffalo new life. Buffalo was in Josh Allen and Buffalo were kind of in a weird spot. Josh Allen had just gotten a face mask call against him, and then I don't know, they end up kind of getting bailed out a little bit by the refs. I didn't think the pass interference call was as bad as the analysts and people are kind of saying online. I thought it was a fine call, but it's still hard to feel like the Rams weren't cheated out of one. They were down 20-3. And this is a game I wasn't watching, every snap. I was just kind of keeping tabs on it, but Rams were down 28-3, battle back, end up losing, 32-35. Watching that game from afar, hard to say. You just get that feeling that they kind of cheated out of something because they were on a hell of a comeback. But these are two teams that are going to be tough, and that's sometimes you got to just stay away when there's kind of these two good teams. I mean, I think they both look like playoff teams at this point, so we'll see what happens. See what their spreads look like down the road. Washington at Cleveland. So I can't make up my mind on this one. So, I mean, Washington, I don't think I have anything to say about that. They're still not a particularly good team. And then Cleveland, I mean, do I feel that much more comfortable? So Cleveland ended up winning 34-20, easily covering like the 7-6 point spread. But do I feel that much better about Cleveland going forward in terms of, when they play other teams? I don't know. It kind of seems like with Cleveland, you got to evaluate whether are they going to be able to run over their opponent and just use Chubb and Hunt to grind clock and grind yards and essentially dominate them, or if it's an opponent that can put up a fight and stifle them a little bit on the run and score some points, and they can't kind of lean on that two-headed attack. Maybe things won't go as well because, Baker in the passing game and Landry and Odell, they just haven't quite looked like anyone hoped that they would look like. So still don't have a really good read or, not a very good comfort level with the Browns. We'll just have to see what the spread looks like when they come out, who their opponent is, and, make the decision, will they be able to run them over or are they going to have a tough time? So Vegas at New England. New England ends up winning this one 36-20. As far as Las Vegas goes, I don't know what to do with the Raiders at this point. They in a weird game, they were able to beat the Saints at home, but now they kind of bounce back and were shut down pretty well by New England. So, I mean, I guess we got an inconsistent team there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see. It's going to be tough to kind of bet them going forward just because inconsistency is never good. New England, on the other hand, looked pretty good. I might be proven wrong over the course of the season here about how good they are. I think a positive sign was they they relied on their committee running backs, and if you're a fantasy owner, first of all, you shouldn't have drafted any Patriots running back, and if you're relying on them, sorry, you're probably not winning a championship this year anyway. But from sports betting or real football standpoint, I thought seeing the committee take the load and take some of that burden off Cam was a really positive sign. So And the defense has still been solid. Bill Belichick's figuring something out. So, uh, I'm going to have to start giving them some respect. And, that's 2 weeks in a row they've been able to put up 30-plus points. So, yeah, they're looking like a good team. I always had them as, getting a wild card spot, but maybe they'll be able to push Buffalo for winning that division. Definitely better than I expected. 49ers at Giants. Not too much to say about this one. Nick Mullins, as I told you guys, balled out a little bit. 343 yards and a score without, the top weapons. I think Brandon Ayuk ended up having a pretty good game, but as a rookie, but not a lot of weapons. Injuries still left and right on that 49ers team. I think Jerick McKinnon got hurt, so now they're on their fourth string running back going into next week. But weirdly, I still had a ton of confidence in the 49ers to win that game. I don't know why. I think that's more of a statement. I don't know if that's more of a statement on the 49ers and just the solid roster that John Lynch was able to construct, or if that's more of a statement on the Giants and just my lack of belief in them. But had all kinds of confidence still in the 49ers to kind of stomp on the Giants. I mostly stayed away from this game still just because of the injuries. But, man, the Giants are not good. Not a good team. I always kind of thought the expectations that were being put on them and Danny Dimes and that offense were overblown. And now without Saquon, that's a dumpster fire. I'm glad I'm not a Giants fan. So, yeah, we'll have to see what the spreads look like going forward. But it's going to be hard to bet the 49ers just because of the injuries. But, there's still something they're still a team, I guess. Jets at Colts. Not much to take away from this one, to be honest. I guess if you're a Colts fan, you kind of had two good slump busters here. You stomped on the Vikings, looked good, and you just stomped on Jets, who are the worst team in football. So easily covered that 10.5 point spread. Kind of, I guess, what you were hoping for if you're a Colts fan, right? Like offensive line, running Jonathan Taylor, Phil starting to look a little bit better. I think he threw his 400th touchdown pass. Doesn't mean much, I guess, for this season. We'll see. Maybe that first game, against the Jags, they were just kind of shaking the rust off, and now they've had two more games to kind of bust the slump and become more of a team. I guess we'll see, but it's hard. You got to temper it a little bit because beating up on the Jets, take that for what it's worth. Jets are bad. I don't know what else to say about them. The bummer is, it was a 10-point spread. I think the spreads going forward are going to be pretty close to graduating high school. So that's going to be the tough part. They're bad, but Vegas is going to take that into account, and it's going to be hard to bet them because who knows, they'll be able to cover like a 17-point spread some week and ruin you. So I guess we'll have to just see it as it goes. Panthers Chargers, another one. So Panthers 21, Chargers 16. I think Herbert struggled a little bit. I didn't watch this game, didn't pay attention to it. No interest in these teams. Nothing to say there. I guess it'll depend on who they're playing. Bucks at Broncos. So the Buccaneers, man, this is kind of like the Browns game where it's like, how much can I really read into this, right? So the Buccaneers won 28-10, but the Broncos are really hurt right now. They're down their number one receiver, they're down their quarterback, some key pieces on defense, such as Von Miller. So, beating them 28-10, I don't know what that really means. The Buccaneers defense really shut down that run game, and the Buccaneers defensive line is pretty strong. So, I guess that was a positive sign. Tom Brady, looked good, threw some yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 to Mike Evans. So fantasy-wise, that was good. But then Chris Godwin got hurt again. So what do you do with that? He's got a hamstring. We'll see what happens. Still tough to read the Buccaneers. As they start to play good teams again. It's going to be tough to trust them. But, maybe they're kind of like the Colts where they're just kind of finding their groove and down the last 8 games of the year, they'll be really good. Who knows? I guess I still believe that they'll be a good team. But it's hard to take away, from this win and really feel good about it. Lions at Cardinals. The only thing I was going to say about that is, Lions aren't as bad as people always try to act. When they lose close. Now that Kenny Galladay's back, Matt Stafford's number one weapon, I think that offense can be real dangerous. So don't sleep on Stafford. And the Cards. So the Cardinals, I think people were getting a little too hyped on what the Cardinals had done up to that point. I don't think they've had too many impressive games so far. I think they had a week 1 victory over the 49ers, but it's week 1. They're still a pretty middle of the road team with a good offense. So, so glad to see, I guess, the Cards come back down to earth a little bit. Packers at Saints. So the Packers end up winning this one 37-30. The score was close, and I didn't watch this that closely. I was busy studying, but I was pretty confident the Packers were going to win that game kind of throughout. Never really felt like it was in jeopardy. But it was good to see the Saints bounce back. Kamara had a heck of a game. They were back to kind of looking like a playoff team. And the Packers, continue to look good. So these are 2 playoff teams. We'll have to see what the spreads look like, who their opponents are. But I guess a little faith restored in the Saints and a little more buy-in to what the Packers have done so far. All right, so that's about it. We got a Ravens at Chiefs tonight. So that'll be exciting. Obviously, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes duking it out. I still like the Ravens. -3 is what I'm seeing them at. I might put a little more on that. I think the Ravens have looked pretty flawless so far, and the Chiefs not so much. So obviously, Mahomes hard to bet against. He can always turn it on and keep them in any game. But I'll be excited to see what happens. I just think the Ravens are such a good, well-rounded opponent. Tough defense, good offense, and the Chiefs defense I don't think is really going to be able to stop them. So it's going to be a lot to put on, Patrick Mahomes' back tonight. But, it'll be exciting to watch. What do I know? So I guess last quick thing, I'm on Twitter. If you want, updates throughout the week, a little more like real-time adjustments as I may be changing my thinking or new angles come up throughout the week. Give me a follow at Favorite Fade on Twitter. I'm trying to be a little more active there. And then, that's about it. Thanks.